Anyway, yesterday was all about Ben Stokes, and we're going to be paying tribute to Ben Stokes during this lunch interval with Jonathan Agnew, joined by Michael Vaughan, Sir Alistair Cook and Steve Finn. Stokes bows out of representing England and playing international cricket after so many special moments wearing the 3 lions on his chest.
Stokes picks on the hook shot. He's got it fine. His arms are aloft. He punches the air. 100 for Ben Stokes. His top edge to hook shot. Not the best shot he's played, but surely the best innings.
As Stokes, with 2 balls left in this over, is on his way. He's there. He bowls to McCullum. Oh! Bowled him! He's bowled him first ball. Here's Broad coming in and bowling to Voges. Oh, he's brilliantly caught! Brilliantly caught! That is an outrageous catch by Ben Stokes. That was gone. It was past him. And he flung himself backwards and to his right. You won't see a better catch, I'm sorry.
So here's Rabada with mickle approach. Short, pulled away by Stokes, 6 more. That was out of the middle. And it's 250 for Ben Stokes.
Sweeps in the air and straight towards Stokes, who takes an incredible one-handed catch. Unbelievable. Jumping in the air and somehow plucking it out of nowhere.
Oh, you have to smile. What a catch.
Bolt's on his way, bowls to him. That's a length, and he heaves it away into the leg side. That's going to go for 6. In goes Bolt. It's a full toss. Swiped into leg side. They want to get 2 here, surely. Come on, Adil Rashid. Run. Stokes to the far end. He's desperately getting there. Dives. Now, that came off Stokes. If it goes to 4, there's nothing they can do about it.
That's 4.
There's nothing they can do about it. Stokes is saying to the umpire, don't let it count. And in comes Pat Cummins from the far end. He bowls to Stokes, who hammers it for 4. And stands there with a back raise. I can't believe we've seen that.
That is the most extraordinary innings ever been played by an Englishman.
Ben Stokes says he's honoured to take up the role as England men's Test captain. He's been appointed by the ECB this morning following Joe Root's resignation.
Now here we have got a declaration, and Pakistan need 343 to win. And England have won this match in the most thrilling of circumstances. The sun is just dipping behind the water tank. There may have been another 10-15 minutes or so of time. England have gambled, they've been positive, they threw the gauntlet down, and they have won this match by 74 runs on the blandest, flattest pitch you could find.
Green bowls and he swings at the next ball, and that's gone for another 6. That has gone over deep backward square. This has been a crazy over, and the 100 for Stokes. 2 6s to go from 88 to 100. What an exhibition this is. 3 6s in the over, and the over isn't over, and Stokes isn't finished, that's for sure. This is the most extraordinary cricket at the moment.
Word has got out that Ben Stokes, 25 past 3 on the 4th day, has announced that he's retiring, and he's still bowling. He's got the old ball. Crowd behind him now. Over the wicket he goes. Bowls to Folks. Edged and caught. Well, there's something Botham-esque about that. The first ball that Ben Stokes has delivered since announcing his retirement takes a wicket. Some people have their scripts written for them, and they're beyond the realms of the rest of us. And Ben Stokes is one of those.
Stokes lifts that into the leg side. He's caught at mid-wicket. The show is over. Stokes hammered it away into the onside, picked out the fielder, and New Zealand have the breakthrough, and Stokes is on his way for the final time.
Well, one thing that I think someone I spoke to just said, like, when it happens, like, what does it feel like? And they just say it basically just feels like it kicks you in the teeth, and you just sort of know. And I've had a couple of those over the last probably, I think, 5 or 6 weeks, and then, you know, it was up there yesterday or the day before, I can't even remember, to be honest. It was when I was actually putting my pads on and waiting to bat. I would say that was just sort of the final nail of the coffin, and, you know, I came into this week, you know, being very not open-minded, I don't think it's the right word, but like giving myself as much time and experience everything that a Test match week brings to you, to see if I could really see myself carrying on beyond the series, and being back in amongst it in the environment. I just can't see it, and then obviously with the emotion and the feeling that I got when I was getting my pads on ready to go out and bat in our first innings, those are ones that I felt before, and just was like, right, okay, this is it. This is the one thing I didn't want to be thinking about or feeling like, and it's happening. So it's the final nail in the coffin, along with everything else.
And how do you feel about that now?
There's lots of emotion. There's sadness. There's relief. There's happiness. There's excitement. Because I absolutely love cricket. I love the sport, and that's something that I need to make sure that I always feel like I'm doing. And over the last 6 months, 12 months, however long it may be, there's been certain moments where I felt like I haven't loved it. My time last week back with Durham, there wasn't a moment where I didn't. And so being able to compare what it was like being back at my county, where everything sort of started with me and people who I grew up with, and then comparing it to here, where I've always loved, to not feel that sense of love and complete and utter enjoyment like I have done for pretty much the 100 and whatever Test matches before, then you just sort of know, because being able to compare what it was like last week playing for Durham and then comparing it to all of the other things this week, it was tough to see me going on past this Test match.
You said there were a couple of moments. Was one the blow in the face, and the other one that what happened after the Lord's Test match? Those are the sort of two moments that made you sort of think again?
No, there's lots. I think there's so much that people don't see. The time and effort that you put in away from all your responsibilities in terms of like in the public. The months after Australia, it was tough in terms of what I put myself through physically, mentally, to try and build on to this summer and then into the winter, and then obviously onto the 2027 Ashes as well.
Are you going to play on?
Yes, I am. Yeah, that's part of the excitement. I think everyone sort of maybe plans what they're going to do when they're done with this, and me and my partner always spoke about sort of getting to the end of the Ashes, and hopefully that's going the way it was going to go, and then going back and playing a little bit of county cricket and other opportunities that there is at the moment. But you can never have it. No one ever gets sort of the perfect ending that they want, and unfortunately for me it came a lot earlier than sort of what I've been speaking about, but that's in a perfect world, and the world certainly isn't perfect.
Well, that's Ben Stokes talking after he announced his international retirement yesterday afternoon, speaking more or less on the spot that we're standing on now. I'm going to reflect on his remarkable career. I've got Michael Vaughan, Alistair Cook, and of course Stephen Finn out here as well. We're just getting some fresh air really, but this was where it all happened, Michael, and I guess we're still in a little bit of shock about it all, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, 3:25 yesterday afternoon, we were both on the radio. I think this pair to my left were on the television. A sheet came our way. I didn't have a clue what it was. You were a little bit put back as well. I mean, it was remarkable, really, to think that one of our greatest suddenly decided during a game, halfway through day 4, when the game's on an eye phase, to announce his retirement, gets a wicket next ball. Again, not surprising when we're talking about Ben Stokes, but I still am a bit lost for words in terms of the timings and the fact that it hasn't sunk into me yet that we'll never see Ben Stokes playing for England again.
But will be, that's the question. But in the meantime, let's look back on that extraordinary career. Let's start with Cookie. Go on then. When was the first time that you came across or heard of a young Ben Stokes?
Well, I'm pretty sure it was when Paul Collingwood told, the England dressing room said when we met up again, I can't remember what year it was, said just seen a young fella at Durham who's going to be unbelievable. He said he's rough around the edges, he's an all-rounder, he does everything, and he's 100 miles an hour. And he won't be long before he's playing for England. And you do hear that occasionally and you go, yeah, but he was adamant. So that whether he was 16, 15 then, and it was a couple of years later he turned up. But I do remember when he turned up, he was this guy who was just full on, and he didn't accept been second best at anything. So if you were in a fielding competition with and he missed the stumps, he'd get so angry. I was like, he's only missed the stumps, but no, that's like and then he would go and do it over and over again until he was the best at doing that. And that's and also batting in the nets. I remember him once batting in the nets, got out, and he just turned around and just whacked the stumps down, like in absolute anger. I was like, mate, it's all right, you got out, you can relax. But he was just wired differently to pretty much everyone else I'd seen. And then the first time, obviously, he announced himself was on that Test series in Australia, that pretty tough one, 13-14. He was pretty much our only standout person, and straight away got Australians' respect.
Yeah. Finney, when did you first hear about this young man?
The first time I shared a dressing room with him was in 2011, and echoed the sentiments that Alistair had there, were just the absolute competitive and want to win. And it's quite an un-English thing to have that bit between your teeth. Yeah, one-day cricket. I played in his ODI debut in Ireland, and then there was a series against India afterwards, and I think he bust his finger actually quite badly at the end of that series and wasn't in squads for a little while whilst he got that right. But just the absolute determination to win was something that was quite refreshing. And he was clearly rough around the edges. He was raw, he was young. But when you look beyond that and you saw the talent that he had in every facet of the game, he was like a player that I hadn't seen before. I'd seen guys dominate with the bat or with the ball, but you just looked at him and thought he had the ability to dominate with everything. And then his mentality on top of that is something that just made you think, when you first saw him, he's someone that I think could be around international cricket for a long time, and he has been.
The character is clearly a common thread here, Michael, isn't it? I mean, and actually these big personality all-rounders are often like that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I got the same phone call from Paul Collingwood back in the day about this young kid. I then thought, I'll keep an eye on Ben Stokes. I think he was around 16, 17, and then he kept on talking about him and looked at his scores. He started to play for Durham. I saw him go 100 against India in 2010 in the Under-19 World Cup. And they were a good side back then, and I thought, this kid can play. And the more that I saw him, the 2013-14 Ashes series, that 100 that he scored in Perth against Mitchell Johnson, who was bowling rockets. He was bowling, I would say, as quick as I've seen.
Third Test that was, I think. He made his debut in the second, didn't he?
He made his debut in the second at Adelaide, and
Trott had gone home.
Trott had gone home, and I think the bit where he was the Brad Haddon incident, wasn't it? I think he got him out on the no ball. And then Brad decided, so he got him out celebrated, and then Brad decided to come back and give the youngster a bit of a go. And obviously, that was red rag to a bull.
Not sensible.
and Stokes, and you just thought, this guy is who you want in the team. And throughout the next few years, he fluctuated between sometimes, probably more his bowling had more of an impact after that. More consistently, some spells of bowling, but that competitive edge, and we were desperate for that. I think anyone was desperate for that, and I know he's a way more rounded person now. In terms of leadership, we'll get onto that in a minute. But there, it was this raw aggression in every moment in the field, and. No, so I think it was.
That 100 it wasn't one of his sort of belligerent innings, was it? It was just a really nicely constructed 150 balls or something. I think
there was a massive crack down the middle of the wicket. So I think to have played that, but if he didn't hit the crack, it was flat. But he was pulling Mitchell Johnson in front of the square, or he was cutting him through the covers. He was hitting the ball so cleanly. That's what stepped out his bat at the beginning. How cleanly he struck the ball. It was just to sit up and go, this guy can bat.
Yeah.
And it's his want to be there in those moments that stood out for me. I was on that tour, but I didn't play a game. So you kind of observing everything whilst you're thinking about yourself, but you're also there in the dressing room watching. And he just didn't back down. And that was a series where, on the whole, as a team, we did back down. Yes. But that Brad Haddon situation was the first moment you thought, this guy wants to be in the thick of these crunch moments in games. Then that 100 at Perth, where you could fit your whole hand down that crack.
Do you remember
down
his
the
toe?
middle of the pitch.
Do you remember his toe as well?
His toe was hanging off, and
as he's bowling on rock hard pitches. I think was it his left or right?
Yeah, left.
Left. So there, and as he bowled, slammed it down because he didn't have the right boots probably, or made for him because he was just a youngster. He made a massive hole in it. Went through 2 pairs of socks every session, and basically ended up just being his bone on and did he moan about it? No,
he got 6 for in the 5th Test.
Yeah,
he got 6 for 90 in the 5th Test.
Yeah. Presumably, because it was quite a shell-shocking experience, that trip, wasn't it? But you just had no doubts about putting this young cricketer for his debut in to go and face that.
No, absolutely not. Actually, he would have been almost the first name on the team sheet after the initial shock of Brisbane, and then after we saw it at Adelaide. Probably ideally you think, you wouldn't want to throw anyone into the debut of the Test match, but there's who could cope with it. Ben could cope with it.
Yeah. What about, before we go into sort of specific contributions and so on, what do you think he'll be remembered for most, Michael? Was Ben Stokes' real sort of contribution to English cricket, if you like?
I think usually with players when they retire, you do remember one thing that they've done, but I think he's got too many.
Yeah.
I honestly just think back, a bit of controversy that he's brought. The World Cup final at 84 not out to get England to the Super Over. That innings at Headingley, I guess that probably tops the lot. If I ever had to pick one, was that innings. But there's been so much. Look, bowling to Carlos Brathwaite in 2016, you forget that he got hit for all those sixes. So they had the resilience to come back from that.
I was commentating on that, and I really believe that would be the last. I thought that would have broken him, and that would have broken so many. It's in front of so many people, such a high profile, and to get smashed for 4 sixes like that, that would have broken people.
Yeah, this is why he's so good, because he's taken, he's had some bruises throughout his career.
Yes.
It's not all been plain sailing. Being sent home from a Lions trip in 2013, he obviously was on the naughty step back. There's always found a little bit of naughtiness in Ben.
Yes.
There's been one or two aspects of his career, but to bounce back from a bit of controversy, to bounce back from a moment in a T20 World Cup final where England are strolling the game, and to lose that from that position, to then come back and be the player, and then a few years later become an incredible captain. I think he became an incredible captain because of all those problems that he'd had. He could understand everyone in the dressing room. He could understand the best player in the dressing room because he's been that. He could understand the naughty kid in the corner because he's been that. He could understand those that weren't quite working hard because he's probably been there himself. I think that's why he became such an empathetic captain. And I think that was probably the one thing when he took over, I thought, what's he going to be like with his teammates? And from speaking to the likes of Alistair and those that have played under him, he became an incredible man manager and really good with the human beings, which I always got taught as a captain, that you look after the human, not the player. And if you can look after that human being, you've got a better chance of being a good captain. And it sounds like Ben did that better than most.
It's interesting that, because you look at Stokes, smothered in tattoos, and you talk about the past and Bristol and that sort of thing. And yet he's a bit of a softie really inside, isn't he? His mother's a grief counsellor in New Zealand, and there's definitely that side of Ben's character.
Yeah, and also the care he has for the team he's playing in. And it doesn't matter what team he's played in, whether it's going back to Durham or here at England, or when it was in 2015, it was genuine care and want that team to win there, and then care for the people in there. You go back those moments, Headingley, without a shadow of a doubt, being there and seeing that was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. But just a couple of different ones. The bowling, I'm pretty sure I want to say you got Pfeiffer in that Ashes in at the second innings here when we'd lost it. When did Jimmy Anderson get injured or something?
6 for 36 he got here in the Broad game.
Yeah, in the Broad game. So everyone remembers the Broad, everyone remembers his catch. But actually in the second innings, when it didn't get tight, but he then bowled another one of his mammoth spells, got 6 for swinging it all over it. And it's just the big moments he delivered time and time again. And as a cricketer, I always thought Broady had that as well. Like when it really mattered, he delivered. I thought when you retire, I think how good would that be to knowing that when it really delivered. I think unfortunately for Broady, I think Stokesy's gone up a level on that kind of stuff.
I remember when Shane Warne went to play for Hampshire and what he brought to that Hampshire dressing room. You can imagine the Durham players now. Knowing that they played with him last week, and to hear him announce last night he's going to go and play for Durham. If I was a young player and I'm up at Durham and I'm in and around that first team, second team, I can't wait. To play in the dressing room with Ben Stokes, just to watch him and learn from him. And as I said, we'll no doubt discuss. Maybe we'll see him again in a year's time. We'll have to wait and see. But
I'm going to ask you now, because you've raised it. Do you think, and the character that we've talked about, this fierce competitor, who really is so motivated, is he going to be content playing at Chester Street when England are playing Australia at Lords? Is that going to fire him up?
He may do. He may be able to fire himself up for 3 men and a dog and a couple of other dogs.
That's the question.
Watching him at Chester Street, he might be able to find that mentality. He's different to most, but I just think when the Ashes come around next year, if he's fit, April, May is always a good month or two for county cricket. It's kind of the spotlight. That's where you're looking at bringing players in and potentially those going out of the team. The IPL's on, which always seems to get a little bit of negativity, so there'll be England players at the IPL which will cop a few negative comments because they're not back here in the UK. That's always the nature of the beast. And if Ben, I'm sure he will be if he's fit, he's scoring runs, taking wickets. And as I've said to you, I think there will be a change in management. I can't see how this management will carry on for another year. If there is a change in management, and obviously there'll be a new captain, if that captain's not getting in his car and driving up to Durham and just saying, Ben, please, one last hurrah against the Aussies. I can't imagine Australia next summer without Ben Stokes somewhere involved. So I think it's a watch this space.
All right, I'm going to ask you two the same question shortly. Okay, but let's start Cape Town. The 250 that he scored there. What? I mean, it was that was kind of Ben Stokes, I thought, at his best, because it was such an aggressive, such a bruising, second fastest double century in history. I know we will talk about Headingley and the way that he played there particularly, but just in terms of crisp hitting and a destruction of an attack, that Cape Town innings stands out for me.
Yeah, but it wasn't full of risk. That's what made it so special. It wasn't a ramp. For me, it wasn't the ramps and you getting away with it. It was just him standing, hitting the ball on the top of the bounce. Against some good bowlers as well. Rabada was playing and just hitting him at will where he wanted to. I think maybe when he got close to 200, it was just clearing his leg, and after 200. But up to that moment, and I think, I can't remember what he was at the end of day one, but I'm going to say he was on about 70 or 80. And the last thing I said to him was like, because he played beautiful that night before, I said, just take this up, take a bit of time to get back in a game. Because, I always found it really hard to get back in. First two balls, I went to the toilet, I didn't see him crash for 4. It was 8 off 2. I was like, all right, he's back. Just ignore exactly what I say. He's back in again. A brilliant, brilliant double 100.
Yes, he was. I just remember you were there, Finney? I can't remember.
We fielded 211 overs. I remember it well.
So you sat and watched that?
I sat and watched it. And he actually did it in the warm-up game. I think we played a warm-up game in Potchefstroom before that. And must remember that summer before was Trevor Bayliss' first summer, and actually I think one of the biggest moments in Ben Stokes' career was when Trevor Bayliss came in and said, "You're my number 6," because before that he'd fluctuated from a number 8 to 7. He was a bowler who was doing a bit of all-round batting. I think Bayliss came in and said, "Ben, you're my number 6. You will have the responsibility to bat like a proper batter and then bowl the overs and be that charismatic character within the dressing room that we need." And I think that performance was off the back of the trust that Trevor Bayliss gave to him, which then allowed him to grow into the player that affects those massive moments in games that we see now.
There's a couple of moments. I think Peter Moore's got him under his wing a little bit and really got Ben to really think about detail. So I think he came in, when he first came in, he just played a bit of aggression. They had Moorsey to get that real technical work done, and that you got this, and then we got that level, and then suddenly Trevor came in, and Trevor was just like, be you now. So he kind of done all the work under Peter Moore's, that kind of dedication. He kind of got this dedication right, and everything off field and all his technique, and then had Trevor to come in, you're my man. And I think that helped him. Really important.
It's a good point, because I mean I've watched him train. Unbelievably hard, isn't he? I mean, he is extraordinarily fit. What about practice? I mean, is he a big actual practicer? Does he bowl a lot? Does he bat a lot? He really works hard at his game.
Yeah, probably for his body, the last couple of years, a slight detriment to it because of the injuries, because he couldn't just cruise a session. You couldn't, sometimes on a Tuesday for a test match on a Thursday, you can, the experience, Jimmy wouldn't have bowled a huge amount of balls, Broady, 75%, 80%, get through it and save yourself. Ben just couldn't do that, which is what made him so different. But he trained the house down and set standards fitness-wise, where everyone always takes it to the next generation. I thought I was fit, and then you see these guys, what he's done is way fit.
Yeah. And getting back to that character, just being driven to be the best.
Yeah, I mean, to play for such a long period of time, to captain, you've got to motivate yourself. You have to have that motivation when you wake up in the morning, particularly someone that's done everything. Been the bowler, been the fielder, as fit as Alistair says, obviously hits many balls. It takes it out of your body, and to think that he's done it for such a long period of time, and he's got up every morning, probably with aches and pains, and probably more pains than we know about, to have that motivation to keep going. Again, it's no surprise that he woke up one time over the last few weeks and thought, the fire's burnt out. That's why I keep saying sometimes you can rebuild a fire. That's why I'm not ruling out. I can't, because it's Australia next summer and I want the best England team, and he's going to have to be in it.
I think we're all kind of, whether it's just saying perhaps hopeful, perhaps in hope.
I think the more everyone's pushed him that way, the less it's going to be. You know,
give it a few months.
He's quite stubborn. But what about the way he constructs his innings? And I'll ask the two batsmen on this, because you see highlights, don't you, of him smashing the ball around. And we all know, I talked about Cape Town and we'll talk about Headingley and so on. But actually, a lot of his innings, not even the ones which he scores big runs, but he does tend to actually start really quite slowly.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's been many great players that play for England, but I have Ben right at the top in terms of the chase. When the chase is on and the pressure's hot, you go to that World Cup final. He just found a way. He found a simple way to start with, and then the rotation of strike, then nipping it into the onside for a couple of twos, and then the boundaries had to come, and he knows how to find the boundary. That 100 he got against Australia after Johnny Bairstow gate.
Yes.
I mean, from nowhere, he was pretty much plodding along like Sir Alistair, and then suddenly turned into Sir Garfield Sobers.
Fired him up.
He can bat like Alistair and Sir Garfield. That's the best compliment I can give him.
Yeah.
And he just has an amazing calmness when the chase is on. I mean, the Headingley chase, the World Cup final, the chase in the T20 final in Melbourne against Pakistan. I was watching going on, he's completely screwed this up.
Yeah, it looked like the game was lost.
Yeah, and then suddenly starts finding the boundaries, and he is an amazing character and calmness when everyone else around, and those on commentary as well are panicking. He seems to be able to find that kind of zen of knowing how exactly to get over the line with the bat in hand.
I think a couple of years ago, he would have batted at 6 or 7 here and been thinking, I want to let them do their work, and then whatever situation the team finds themselves in, I will be able to deal with it and cope with what the team needs. I'm not sure I think he might have lost a bit of trust in his batting over the last year or so. Maybe that's part of the decision why he wants, as Vaughan's saying, time out. I'm saying retiring.
We're going to rebuild this fire. We're going to just get a load of logs,
a couple of fire lighters, a bit of paraffin.
I don't think he quite trusts his batting as much as. I had no way Ben Stokes. I would have known when he said, "You're going to bat at 7." He would have said no. I want to bat at 6.
What about technique? Because again, we go back to a lot of the big hitting stuff, because that's what lives in the memory. But technically, I mean, he could open the batting, not like yesterday, but he'd be good enough, wouldn't he? His technique.
Absolutely, I think his technique actually at his best was very simple and very still at point of delivery and head in a good position, and his natural timing of the ball means he hit the ball incredibly hard. Yeah, but for a couple of years, he probably had England's best and most reliable technique.
Yeah. Well, on to my favourite. I know, I'll never see another test. We will never see another test match like Headingley 2019, and coming so soon after the World Cup as well. I mean, he was just on top of the world then, wasn't he? I mean, Ian Botham obviously attracted attention in a similar way, but somehow that was Ben Stokes' summer.
Yeah, it was, and we'll no doubt talk about the innings, because that was exceptional. I have that right up there with the best that I've seen, but it was his bowling spell.
Yes.
He
was often overlooked.
I think Joffre was struggling and couldn't quite get the overs in, and suddenly Ben went, give me the ball, because Australia was so far ahead of the game, and Ben produced this mammoth bowling spell to give England just a glimmer of hope. And you just know with someone like Ben Stokes, you only have to give him a glimmer and he'll believe. And the Aussies had a chance to just take that glimmer away from Ben, but because he got the ball in hand and he kept on going, suddenly the chase is on, and then you lose wickets. And I think his first 50 came in a ridiculous amount of balls, didn't he?
He had to bat the night before, didn't he?
Yes, he
did.
And
he walked out, and Lyon was bowling, and he just blocked. He literally, he didn't play a shot, because he said, I remember chatting to him after, he said, I had to be there the next morning if we had any chance. So over my dead body, block. Bat like me, you're going to say now, but that's what he did. And
it's a good way to bat, Sir Alistair.
Yeah, but right, again, it was such a slow start, and then, the next day, I mean, could anyone else have done that? I suppose Ian Botham could have done it. People compare the two, don't they? And they say that Ian's innings in 81 was in a losing situation. I mean, the game was done, and he went out and played like he did brilliantly. However, for Stokes, Ashes on the line, number 11 at the other end. I mean, there was a lot to play for as far as the pressure on Stokes.
It was ridiculous. I mean, I kind of look back at it now, and we see so many of the highlights, and I still can't believe he did it. You know, some of those shots, the reverse sweep into the stands, flicking Hazelwood into the terrace on a few occasions. Then Lyon came and bowled a little bit slower and wider outside off into the footholes, and he was flat batting him down the ground for 6, which was only going 20 yards in the air.
He clothed one. And I think everyone thought, oh no, that's it. And it just, there's quite a short boundary up at our commentary box end, and it just plopped over the top. But I remember the sound of it hitting the bat. Thought, oh no, that's all over. He just got enough.
And everyone talks about that, but that was the last 70 runs. But then he was on, what had he been, 7 or 8. He played beautifully there. The next morning, he ran out Joss Butler as well, so he threw that one in the mix. That you'd also said you want in that position as a chase, but without a doubt, for me, the best innings I've ever seen, because it had absolutely everything. We always talk about, we like T20, but you play the same way. Test cricket, you have to play for the situation, and that situation for his 130 odd required different methods for different moments, and he was good enough to play every single method needed, and that's, for me, the one I've seen live was just absolutely extraordinary.
And he sparked up, Stephen, just so much enthusiasm into cricket, didn't he? I mean, he really did, he brought cricket into the front room again.
Well, that summer was just incredible, wasn't it? And the character, what we always come back to with Ben Stokes is the character. And he was the one, when no one thought it was possible, he would always believe. And I think you felt that as a player when you're playing with him in the dressing room. He made you believe, playing alongside him, that the impossible was possible. And in that 2019 chase, the ability to stay calm and think about the runs and the situation with the runs, but also to stay calm given that you're trying to manage a number 11 situation with Jack Leach at the other end, and how many balls he needs to face. To be able to put all of those different hats on in one innings is simply incredible.
Michael said his bit. You two have got 10 seconds each. Is this the end, or will he be riding on his white Charger down the M1 at the start of next summer to go and face Australia?
I think this is the end of Ben Stokes. I think this is, from what I've heard, whatever the real reason, I think he's got tired. I think I captained and opened the batting, and I found it tiring. I still had the odd day where I stood in there, did nothing. Every day he's involved, and I think he's just got to that point. And I thought, why has he got tired after 4 months? He's had a 4-month break.
Yes.
So he's not been on the treadmill. He's been at home, and I think he might have just thought, you know what, I don't need this stress anymore. So I'm going to say no, just to be different.
My heart agrees with Sir Alistair, but the more I talk to Varney, the more I believe it's possible.
I'm going to be on the streets of this country, I'm telling you, with banners.
Great stuff. Thanks, you three. There we are. A lovely look back at an extraordinary career. I'm still hopeful.
Come on, John. I like it.
I like it, but I don't think.
I'm in
I reckon we could get 20,000 here today on the streets campaigning around next June.